Doobie-doobie-doo. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. Doobie-doobie-doo. 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 I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. Doobie-doobie-doo. Salvati.
All right. Happy 4th of July, guys. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you are new, I want to let you know that Sabby Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays and Fridays, and you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. Welcome, guys. Yes, I am live earlier today than normal time because I know that it is the 4th, and I know many of you want to partake in firework activities and all that jazz. So I sent out a portion of the newsletter the other day letting you guys know that I would be live earlier today because of that. But yeah, welcome, guys. And shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. Hello. I want to give shout outs to people in the chat, and then we'll go ahead and dive right in. What's going on? G says RFK 2024. Shout out to CBC Voter says, happy Tuesday, Sabby Sabs. Happy Tuesday to you too, CB. What's going on? Miguel says, happy Tuesday. Shout out to Janice says, hi all. Greetings, Hannah G says, happy 4th. Shout out to Larez. Happy Independence from the Establishment Day, everyone. Hello, Sabrina, Eric, and Sabby fam. Elon's story is weird. It hurts his profits to limit the use of Twitter. Smash the like, y'all. That's right. Go ahead and hit that like button, guys. We're going to get into that Elon story. I do have some things to say about that. Shout out to Greg Bruce says, hey, what's going on? Becca C says, happiest of days. What's going on? Ravina, who's a Sabby member, says, love Sabby's intro. Happy something, everybody. Yeah, whatever you want to call today, right? So for me, the 4th of July is the Twilight Zone Marathon. That's what the 4th of July is for me. I can sit down on the couch and sit back and veg out and just watch like Twilight Zone Marathon. Like that's what's also New Year's Day too. New Year's Eve into New Year's Day. They also do a Twilight Zone Marathon. So yeah, shout out to Brian says, what up everybody? Shout out to Mark says, Sab, I'm looking forward to finally having a permanent movement to advance the people's agenda. I agree with that. What's going on? Mastermind Hour, who's a Sabby member, says, I guess CJ thought it would be a good day to podcast too. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I posted this yesterday, so I don't know. Maybe he did decide to go live. Shout out to Rick says, hey, y'all. Greetings, Optimism of the Will says, happy to all who get a day off today. That's a good point. Not everyone has today off. Shout out to Carrie Scott says, MH. Greetings, Chris says, happy Independence sort of day. I hear you there. What's going on? Roger Meadows, who's a Sabby member, says, happy Fireworks Day. I don't say Independence because it didn't apply to me. That's a good point. What's going on? Anarcho says, what up, foes? Shout out to Robert says, Meta will end up exploiting Twitter's issues. Yeah. Oh, we have so much to say today. So much to say. What's interesting is 2 of the stories today are good news stories. So I'm excited about that. Shout out to Joey, who's a Sabby member, says, booze who, folks? Greetings. Sorry, make sure I skipped over someone. Greetings, Dwayne says, what to the slave is the 4th of July? Very good points. Very good points. Really quick, I want to give a shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much for your support. I really do appreciate it. It goes a long way. Thank you, everyone who's a Sabby patron. If you're interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories: Ultimate, Sabinators, Sabsters, Sabbies, and of course, members. You can see all of their names here. You can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. And I want to give a shout out to new Sabby patrons. I shouted out Dina last time, but I want to give a shout out to Yesim. Welcome, welcome aboard, Yesim, and thank you all so much. So, I don't know what plans you guys have today for the 4th. What's everybody doing? Are you guys like grilling? Are you going to someone else's house for the 4th? Or are you just chilling at home? You know, I don't know. It is raining here. It is pouring rain. It rained yesterday. I was going to see fireworks yesterday. They were canceled because of the rain. I was like, okay, we can go later on tonight. It's raining. So hopefully I'll get to go to some type of firework thing tomorrow. They're doing fireworks all week, so probably because of the weather. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, it's the weather has not been good here in the Boston area, Massachusetts. So hopefully it's better where you are. All right, let's go ahead and get started with that beautiful thumbnail. What are we discussing today? Today, we are talking about Elon Musk limits Twitter. Yes, that is happening. We're going to get into all that. Elon's laughing there in that picture. I don't think it's a laughing matter. I actually think this is a class issue. We're going to get into that. We're also going to discuss Ice Cube and Joe Rogan FBI reveal. Ooh. Ice Cube revealed something during this interview with Joe Rogan that I was not aware of. So I'm going to bring that to your attention. I did a little bit of research about this as well. I think you'll be interested in hearing. We're also going to discuss the LA hotel strike. Yes, it is happening. Super pumped and excited for that. We got to give love to the workers. And last but not least, UPS, huge warning. What is on the brink in reference to UBS or UPS? Sorry, I said UBS. UPS. Everyone needs to pay attention and be aware of that. So, if you haven't had a chance to do so, go ahead and smash that like button, guys. That helps me out with the algo. Thank you very much. All right. Yes, I am live, Raul. I am live. Yeah. You can usually tell it's not live if it says premiere. And I always have in the title, if it's a clip, it says clip in the title. Other than that, we're live. All right, let's get into this first story. I see this as good news because I always like when the workers stand up and push back against the establishment. And that story is coming out of Los Angeles, California. Now, about a week ago, I told you it was possible that hotel workers in LA could go on strike. Now, this is huge. There are a lot of hotels in Los Angeles. Obviously, this will affect tourism, and it's happening 4th of July weekend. So that's a big travel time for a lot of people. Well, it is actually happening. Let's go ahead and get into this clip here from NBC News.
Well, thousands of hotel workers in Southern California are hitting the picket lines this 4th of July holiday. The union representing local hospitality workers are demanding better working conditions as they seek a new contract. NBC News correspondent Nyla Charles joins us now with more on this. Hey there, good morning. So these workers, they're members of what's called the Unite Here Local 11. That's their union. Explain to us how this got to this point of actually going on strike. What are they looking for here in this new deal with management?
Well, first, Savannah, you cannot ignore the timing of this, right? This is one of the busiest travel weekends of the year, and these hotel workers are going on strike when a lot of people are coming to Los Angeles looking for a stay at a hotel. Well,
and that's exactly why I say the timing of this was absolutely perfect. How many people travel for the 4th of July? Imagine if they did this over Christmas or something like that. But how many people are out and about or they need a hotel room for the week or the weekend of the 4th? This is the largest hotel strike. And it's not like it's just the Marriott hotels. It's all of them in Los Angeles. So just keep that in mind.
This is what they're demanding. They make about $20 to $25 an hour. They want a $5 raise right now, also asking for annual raises and more benefits as well. They say ever since COVID, they've been understaffed and underpaid. And that's why when you go to a lot of hotels these days, you're seeing housekeeping services available upon request. And that's.
Let's go back for just a second. I want to highlight the wage because that piece will be important when I show you the cost of living for California.
Ever since COVID, they've been understaffed and underpaid. And that's why when you go to a lot of hotels these days, you're seeing housekeeping services available upon request. And that.
Sorry, I didn't go back far enough. Okay, here we go.
Looking for a stay at a hotel. Well, this is what they're demanding. They make about $20 to $25 an hour. They want.
Hold on to that piece right there. Currently, they earn $20 to $25 an hour. Now, depending on where you live, that could sound like a significant hourly wage, like $20 to $25 an hour in a state like Alabama actually may be okay. But is that enough to live off of in California? I'm going to go ahead and cheat here and tell you no, but then I'm going to show you why it's not enough.
On a $5 raise right now, also asking for annual raises and more benefits as well. They say
they're asking for a $5 raise. So if they're making $20 an hour, $5 raise will be $25 an hour. If for the ones who are making $25 an hour, if they get the $5 raise, it'll be $30 an hour. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, even $30 an hour is still not enough to live off of in California. So they're actually shortchanging themselves. But see, here's the thing. Part of the problem is a lot of times the workers don't know how much they're actually worth. And a lot of times they don't know how much they really should be asking for in reference to a living wage, particular to their area, their district, their city, their state. And if I were a part of this, knowing what I know, I would have told them they should be asking for more. And here's a report that explains why. But we'll get to that in just a second. One of the other things that she mentions is that there's a shortage of staff in reference to hotels. This is not just California. This is all across the board. When I was in Maine recently, it's the same thing. It's become more the norm now, where housekeeping upon request, where housekeeping doesn't show up every morning to make the bed and clean the room. So it's almost like, on an as-need basis because of the shortage of staff. So that is happening.
Ever since COVID, they've been understaffed and underpaid. And that's why when you go to a lot of hotels these days, you're seeing housekeeping services available upon request. And that speaks to the shortage of workers that hotels are already facing, even leading up to this strike. So listen to what the union told us about why they're demanding this right now.
The hotel executives have been raking in money since the middle and beginning of the pandemic. They've gotten $15 million of bailouts from the government, while the workers, the dishwashers, the servers, the housekeepers are barely scraping by.
So there's...
Hold on to that for just a second. When they talk about the people who own these hotels, think about how much the family that owns the Marriott, think about how much money they make a year. Intercontinental, the Ramada, the Hilton. We know the Hilton family makes a lot of money. So these people are making millions and millions of dollars, and they want to shortchange the staff, right? But this isn't uncommon. It doesn't matter what industry. Usually this is kind of how it works. This is a prodigy of a prodigy. This is a part of capitalism. This is how it works, where the few people at the top are getting most of the money, and then the people at the bottom are exploited. Housekeeping is not an easy job. I'm going to tell you, it's not just housekeepers, but housekeeping is not easy to do. You have to turn those rooms, but you have to turn those rooms quickly. So just think about that. There's another thing I want to add here in reference to who goes to these hotels. A lot of times people think it's just family members that are traveling, or maybe someone's traveling there for work. But what about athletics? What about professional sports? Do you know how many times baseball players have to travel throughout the year? You know how many games professional baseball players play? Where do they stay when they travel to those cities? They stay at hotels. Think about how this could really hit hard. So any baseball games coming up in LA right now, you don't have a hotel to stay at. That's why I thought it was smart that they did this when they did it. The timing is very key.
Concerns really echo concerns from workers across the country who say their wages aren't stacking up when you look at inflation. Of course, now these hotel workers are asking the hotels themselves for more money, given the fact that they're bringing in a lot of profits right now. Savannah?
Let's talk about the other side of this, Nyla. What are we hearing from hotel companies, hospitality companies about these negotiations?
Hotel companies say even though they've offered these workers half of the raise they asked for, they still have no deal. At this point, negotiations are at a standstill, Savannah. The hotel companies are accusing the union of not coming to the bargaining table for days now. So now in just several hours, we'll see thousands of hotel workers across Southern California striking just as people are coming into the city looking for a place to stay for the 4th of July. Savannah?
All right, Nyla, thank you so much. It's definitely going to be interesting to see as this unfolds over such a busy travel period. We appreciate you covering this.
And that's why they did it when they did it. Now, Robert just brought up a point here. Yep, especially working class minor leagues, college and high school. Yeah. Yes. Baseball players and basketball players play more games than football players. Like these guys are traveling for most of the year. So that's something to think about. Now, there's another piece that I want to bring up here in reference to the workers, because I do want you to hear from them and not just a commentator on CNN. Now, this is from, or in NBC News, whatever, same thing. This is from More Perfect Union. 15,000 hotel workers in Southern California are on strike, walking out of massive hotels like the Hilton, the Ritz-Carlton, and more. This strike is the biggest labor action in the industry in over 50 years. I'm telling you, this is huge. Why are they on strike? Now, you heard about the hourly wage. They're making $20 to $25 an hour. That is not enough to live off of in Southern California. But do most of them even live in the LA area? Let's hear what they have to say.
Imagine having to commute so much that you can only get about 3 hours of sleep at night. That's just a day in the life for Brenda Mendoza, a hotel worker in LA.
We make sacrifices for our families. At the end of the day, we're the ones who are, doing the job. And it doesn't get easier.
Brenda is one of 15,000 hotel workers who recently voted to authorize the largest strike in the U.S. hotel industry in 50 years.
People are angry. They're angry that they can't pay their rent. They're angry that they have to move further and further away. And they're angry that they're working harder than ever and they're not making enough to survive.
Yep.
I work at the JW Marriott. I'm a uniform attendant, and I've been working there for about 13 years, give or take, 13, 14 years. I was born and raised in Koreatown, living in a single, and then our rent started increasing, so we ended up looking for another apartment, something that we were able to afford, and little by little,
Let me pause here for a second. This is someone who grew up in the LA area, Koreatown, can't afford to live there anymore. They've been pushed out due to gentrification. And it's not just Koreatown in LA, it's Chinatown here in Boston, it's Chinatown in New York. Like all of these neighborhoods in these cities where they've basically been like a piece of home for people who have immigrated to this country and their children were raised in those neighborhoods. A lot of the people that built those neighborhoods and who those neighborhoods were originally for can no longer live there. You can say the same thing for Harlem. If you go to Harlem now, Harlem looks nothing like what it used to look when I first went there like 15 years ago. It's very much gentrified now. So this has happened all across the board. So she couldn't afford to live in the home where she grew up, so she had to move further out. Now, here's the problem. Usually where the rent is cheaper, there aren't as many jobs there. So you still have to commute into the city. So now you have a longer commute. Capitalism.
It's been forcing us to move further out. My commute used to be like 10 minutes, and now it's become like 2 hours and a half in the afternoon and 1 hour and a half in the mornings.
To save money on gas and car insurance, Brenda drives with her whole family in one car.
So she's carpooling to save money on gas. And this is actually one of the things that someone who's trying to help you manage your money, they would advise you to do. Why don't you carpool? She's already doing that. It's California, a very expensive state to live in. Can she help where she was born? Can she help where she was raised? No, none of us can. None of us had a say or a choice in the matter where we were born and where we grew up. So this is a bigger issue. It's not just about the hotel strike. This is a small part of a larger issue.
And that means an even longer commute. They usually leave the house at 3 a.m. and don't get back until 9 p.m., which doesn't leave much time for sleep.
Sleeping, give or take 2 hours and a half, 3 hours is max during the week.
This is not the American dream. And you know what? She's not alone. Even here in the Boston area, when I worked at MIT, there were people working at MIT that were commuting 2 hours to work. This whole 2-hour commute thing is not unheard of. That's what I want people to really grasp. There were people coming from the Cape, taking their car to the train station to get on the train, then to get off that train, get on another train to get to MIT. By the time you get through all of that, almost like 2 hours, they say drive and just pay for parking. It ends up being about the same. It ends up being about the same. But they can't afford to live closer to their employer because the rent is too high. So they have to live further away. This is not a life for anyone to live. Anytime you're having to commute 2 hours to get to work, by the time you get home, you have enough time to what? Maybe cook dinner. If you don't have time to cook dinner, you're going to grab something very quickly that you can eat, which is probably not going to be as healthy for you. And then it's time for you to maybe watch one show and go to sleep. Is there any time in that day for you to go to the gym or for you to work out at home, for you to take care of yourself? Not really. It is easier to be healthy when you are not poor. It is difficult to be healthy when you are poor. You see, they have the longer commute. You see, they're making less money. What else are they supposed to do at this point? And so some people will recommend just move, just leave California. Moving costs money. And if you don't have family members that will let you stay with them, save up money so that you can move. Not everybody has that. Not everybody has a mom and a dad that they can stay with and not pay any rent for like a year or two and save up their money and get out. So this is something that people need to understand. That's why I hate this whole, pull yourself up by the bootstraps mentality, because there are no boots or straps for some people in this country.
Sometimes I don't even take my lunch. Those 30 minutes that's supposed to be my lunch, I take them to try to, take a nap.
More and more workers are having to double up, 2 or 3 families into one apartment. Others have to move further and further away to places like California City, Lancaster, Barstow.
I've never even heard of these places. Lancaster, if you're watching and you live in California, let me know. Lancaster, Barstow. I've never heard of those places, but I can see that LA is all the way down here. Looks pretty far to me.
And all of this is happening while the hotel industry in LA is booming.
There is no other place that will host both the World Cup and the Olympics back to back. The hotel industry is growing. There are 90 development projects in the works. Billions of dollars is being spent on the expansion of LAX. This industry is extraordinarily prosperous.
They can't afford it, to increase their wages, to pay their employees more.
Workers are asking for a $5 raise up front and a $3 raise each subsequent year of the 3-year contract.
That's not going to be enough. I'm going to show you why in a second.
But the hotels aren't coming to the table.
The hotel is not bargaining with the workers. They're just not.
It is not acceptable in the middle of the greatest hotel boom in the history of Los Angeles that the industry would fail to even put a penny forward, not even a penny, in terms of a counter proposal.
On June 8th, hotel workers voted overwhelmingly to authorize a strike.
If I'm a tourist coming in July, I would be thinking about remaking my plans, because when you show up You will not have clean rooms. You will not have food. You will not have banquets. You will not have any services.
So what he's saying is that they actually need those employees.
I would suggest that everyone take a break from LA on July 4th weekend. What those workers do is make this city run and make the most important industry in our city prosperous beyond all imagination. And right now, it's our turn.
What we're asking is something that we really deserve because we worked hard for it. Asking everybody to stand by us, with the strike, it's a huge thing.
Stand with the workers. Now, I also wanted to show you, because I thought this was interesting as well. There is someone who's out there right now actually standing with those workers, and that is RFK Jr. So look at this. He said, standing with the strike in Los Angeles. Listen to what he had to say.
Hey, everybody, I'm at the Fairmont Hotel in Santa Monica. These are workers in the hotel on strike now, and they're on strike all over the city. Many of these ladies have worked for this hotel for over 30 years. They do not make enough money to live in Santa Monica or anywhere nearby. Many of them live, most of them, in Victorville or Palmdale, and they have a 2-hour commute both ways. And to save gas, many of them stay in their cars.
Now you have workers who are staying in their car. What has happened to this country? What happened to this country, you guys? I hear people tell stories about how when they first started their entry-level job, they got like a company car, they got a pension. I never got a pension. And some people would consider me to be PMC. I never got a pension. When I quit, that's it. That's it. There was no, you get this pension and this is going to be guaranteed for you. Even when you're left the company or if you worked for a number of years, never saw this in my lifetime. What happened? What happened to the days when people could live in this country and only one parent had to work and the other one could stay home with the kids? What happened to that? What happened to the days when a couple could buy a home that was under $70,000? Could you imagine what that's like? I don't even know what that's like today, to have one parent stay at home. Everyone I know is working, whether they're PMC, working class, or whatever. Everyone I know has a job. I'm just going to keep it real. I never even heard. I had one friend who tried to do it because she had twins and daycare was really expensive. She tried to do it where she stayed at home and her husband just worked. You know what happened? She had to go back to work. This is not the American dream.
During the pandemic, this industry got $1.5 billion from the federal government, and they let the workers go. The workers did not share in that. And the CEO of Hilton Hotel gave himself during that period a $10 million raise. So he raised his salary from $10 million to $20 million. And while these workers stayed at home with nothing. And now these companies, this company, all of them want to cut their health care benefits.
You hear this? So the CEO, let me show you what he's making. This is crazy. The CEO of the Hilton Hotel
gave himself during that period a $10 million raise. So he raised his salary from $10 million to $20 million.
So the CEO of Hilton can give himself a $10 million raise, but they can't give the workers a $5 raise. This is capitalism. This is a big problem. And there's no one to check the CEO. Who checks the CEO? Who supervises the CEO and says, wait a minute, you cannot just give yourself a $10 million raise? Where are the checks and balances? How is this even allowed to happen in this country?
And while these workers stayed at home with nothing, and now these companies, this company, all of them want to cut their health care benefits. So they are on strike, and I'm very happy to be here supporting this strike.
We are not going to give you a $5 raise. Oh, and by the way, we're going to cut your health care benefits, which means they would have to pay full price to go to the doctor. This poverty crisis, that's what I'm going to start calling it. A poverty crisis that is happening in this country is not okay. It is not okay. This is why we need health care for everyone. So you're not depending on your employer giving you health insurance. They can change the health care plan. That's up to your employer. It's not up to you. This year, you could have Blue Cross Blue Shield. Next year, they might change it and you got Aetna. What do? Now, all of a sudden, you went from having no deductible to a $5,000 deductible, which means you have to pay out of pocket until you reach that $5,000 before the insurance company will pay anything. But people keep saying we don't need. Now, here's the thing. RFK Jr. just told you they want to cut their health care benefits. But RFK Jr. also said in the Breaking Points interview that he doesn't think Medicare for all is feasible, that he thinks everyone should have health care, but he supports also having a private option. How can you see it? How can you see it and not be like, no, that should definitely be one of your demands. Health care for everyone.
Thank you.
And there's more. So I want to get to this comment here because Lorez said, I'm in LA. Those cities are at least 2 hours away. And that could be without traffic. I don't know if it's with 2 hours without traffic or 2 hours with traffic. Lana says for LA, even $80K a year is not enough. My comrade JB's in the house said, many of us have poor parents. There you go. There you go. Jay says, what the hell is Oh, I should explain. I'm sorry. What the hell is a PMC? PMC is professional managerial class. That's what that stands for. So yeah, but I'm going to show you why that $5 raise is not going to be enough. Now, just the other day, we went over the cost of living report for 2023. I did this report for 2022 as well. And I want to show you because I actually shared this on Twitter because people who are complaining that these workers are asking for too much, you need to see it. So I shared that they were going on strike. And then I actually shared this information about California. LA hotel workers are on strike. According to the NLIHC 2023 report, workers need to earn a minimum of $42.25 an hour to rent a 2-bedroom apartment in California. Shut it all down. And here it is. So you can see it for yourself. We went through all of this. I think it was Thursday or Friday, Sunday. We went through this on Sunday. So it shows you, you can see it for every state. When you look at that report, how much you really need to make to live in your state. The most expensive areas here, it's even higher. Santa Cruz, San Francisco, San Jose, which goes all the way to Santa Clara, Salinas, Santa Maria, Santa Barbara. Santa Cruz, you really need to make $63.33 an hour. Like, this is crazy. San Francisco, you need to make $61.31 an hour. So this is the problem. So this is why I said asking for a $5 raise when they're making $20 an hour, $25 an hour, that's still not enough money. They need to make at least a minimum of $42.25. And if anybody has contact information with that union, please feel free to share this information with them and let them know this is what you really need to be asking for. And they can share that report with the hotel supervisors to explain to them, this is why we're asking for this money. I don't know what else to tell you, except for the fact that I'm really proud of those workers going on strike. Shut it all down. That is going to affect a lot of people, the professional athletes, that'll affect them, families on vacation, people who have to travel for work, all of it. And I don't care. There are not enough Airbnbs to cover all of that. Thank you, Lana. Lana says that's a pretty top too, Sabby. Thank you. I haven't worn this in quite a while. Thank you so much. But yeah, so let's think about that for a second. But shout out to those guys because they're out there doing the damn thing. If you have not had a chance to do so, go ahead and smash that like button. That helps me out with the algorithm. Thank you very much. Okay. We're going to move on to our next story here about Elon Musk. Now, for those of you who are not on Twitter, there have been pros to Elon Musk taking over Twitter, and there have also been some cons. And over the weekend, Elon Musk decided to make another change to Twitter that has pissed a lot of people off, myself included. And I'm not even on Twitter as often because I see what he did as a class issue. And I think more people need to call it out that way. Let's get into this clip first. And then I'm going to show you his tweets that he thought was no problem.
Scroll. Elon Musk said over the weekend that Twitter will limit, at least temporarily, the number of posts you can read. He claims it's an effort to address extreme levels of data scraping. So
let me pause here for a second. So he is going to limit the number of tweets that you can read, not the number of tweets that you can post, the number of tweets that you can read. And this is where it can get tricky. If you're just scrolling through your Twitter feed, technically that counts as a read. So just think about this. Like, why would you limit how much someone can read? Let's go on. It gets worse because, of course, you know there's money attached to this. Correct, just a little bit.
And that Twitter will limit, at least temporarily, the number of posts you can read. He claims it's an effort to address extreme levels of data scraping. So verified accounts limited to 10,000 posts per day, unverified accounts 1,000 per day. Now, this was revealed after thousands of users complained that they were unable or had trouble accessing the site. Let
me pause here so you can see it because these numbers have changed throughout the weekend. Okay. So it says verified accounts limited to 10,000 posts per day, reading them, unverified 1,000, and new unverified accounts 500. Verified are the accounts that pay for the Twitter Blue subscription. Not everyone can afford it. I pay for it because I post video clips from my streams on Twitter and I can't always limit it to 2 minutes and 20 seconds. I actually had Twitter Blue before this crazy rule even started, when he started to make the change in January, saying that he was going to suppress accounts that did not have Twitter Blue. So since I already had it, I was just kind of like, okay, so everyone's going to know that I paid for this when I had actually been paying for it all along. But when we paid for it last year, we didn't get a blue check. So for those who are not aware, he removed the blue checks from everybody who refused to pay for it, basically. Although some people did get a pass. But let's go on. Elon all over the place.
Reported getting messages that they had exceeded their rate limit. So what is behind this latest turmoil for the company? CNN's senior media analyst Sarah Fisher joins us. She's also senior media reporter at Axios. And Sarah, what gives? What now with him?
There's always something, Audie, right? It never is a dull day in Elon Musk land. You know, I think this is a response to the rise of a lot of big AI platforms that are starting to scrape big social media platforms for data to help train their algorithms. You saw Reddit a few weeks ago said that they would start charging developers for some of that back-end access. They got a lot of pushback from their community. It seems like Elon Musk is trying to do something similar, but the difference, Audie, is that this is going to have a huge impact on the everyday user's experience with Twitter. You saw some people tweeting frustration yesterday, ironically tweeting frustration about Twitter, that they weren't able to get severe weather.
Yeah. Let's talk about this for just a second. So some people didn't even find out that this happened until they received that message that they showed you earlier that said you have reached your limit. That's how some people found out. And I know this because I'm in Twitter DM groups and they were like, what the hell is this? And I was like, I don't know. They're like, it says I reached my limit and I can't read this tweet. That's how some people found out. So it's just, So the concern here seems to be AI scraping data from large social media sites. And I understand that piece of it. But the part where I think it is wrong is that people who are paying for it get to read more than people who cannot afford to pay for it. A lot of people that have Twitter just can't afford it. Even if Facebook were to start this new rule and say from now on you have to pay $5 a month, I think a lot of people would leave Facebook or would just not post. So that's the thing. It's like you're punishing those who can't afford to pay for Twitter Blue. Let's go on.
Updates, critical news and information because they were being limited to the number of posts that they were able to view. Now, Elon Musk has not said how long he's going to implement this temporary crackdown, but I do know that it's going to be frustrating for advertisers because they're reliant on heavy usage in order to fulfill their ad campaigns, make sure they have enough people watching and reading tweets in order to insert their ads between them.
Theoretically reliant on them for business, but one quick fact check. What's this about maybe him not paying his bills? Can you talk about what's going on there?
We'll get into that in just a second. But I want to say something here. Thank you so much for this bill. But data scraping is just a reality of the internet. Fighting it by limiting use won't stop it, but it will upset users. Yeah. And some people yesterday were like, that's it. I've had enough with this website. Follow me on Telegram or follow me on Mastodon, which Mastodon doesn't have the same level of engagement as Twitter does. I'm over there too. I tried it. People are just not really there. There's also Substack Notes, which is similar to that. So some people have gone over there, but again, the level of engagement is still not the same. And this is part of the problem. Every time Elon makes a change that people don't like and people say, that's it, I'm out, I'm not going to use Twitter anymore. Those people come back because there is no other competitor that has the same level of engagement that Twitter has. So that's a big part of the problem. Now, word on the street says that Mark Zuckerberg is planning to launch a platform that is going to be a Twitter rival sometime next week. I'm going to stay tuned for that, and I'll let you know, like, if that happens and when that happens and what I think of it, whatever. But that's the problem. There is no competitor that is large enough and has as much engagement that Twitter does to compete with Twitter. And Elon Musk knows that. So when people get frustrated and they say they're going to leave and they come back, he's like, yeah, they always come back. Let's get into these bills, though.
There have been so many reports, whether it's been some of its B2B vendors or its licensing or its leases, if you will, that Twitter has struggled to pay its bills. And that's because Twitter is really struggling with profitability right now. Now, to be honest, Twitter's always struggled with profitability even before Elon Musk took over. But the difference is that they are not a publicly traded company. They do not need to be transparent about their finances, what money they're bringing in and what money they're spending. And so it seems like the company is just in this sort of chaotic spot where it's trying to stay afloat, but it's not necessarily doing it in the most transparent way. We keep getting reports, not also just about not paying bills, but they're still in litigation with former employees about paying out severances, et cetera. So expect Twitter to continue to be in this sort of financial chaos until maybe they can turn the platform around. But I'm still skeptical, Audie. Even though they have, put in a new chief executive, this platform continues to be chaos as I cover it.
All right. So let's pause here for just a second. Look, it's no secret. Elon kind of let the cat out the bag when he took over Twitter and said that Twitter was actually losing money. They weren't making money because people weren't paying for anything. And yeah, there were ads, but apparently Twitter became too big, too fast. And I think that's part of the reason why Jack handed it over to Elon Musk, because he didn't want to deal with it. So there were already financial issues. Then on top of that, remember, he fired some of the Twitter employees. So there are some people that have litigation in reference to that. They're looking to see him in court or something like that. They're like, you need to give me my package, my severance package that you didn't give me. So there's so many things that are going on in reference to Twitter when you talk about the financial circumstances. So to add on to that, this idea, tell people you need to pay to use Twitter, and that's going to help us out. I don't think that's really helping the way that Elon thought it would, because not as many people chose to pay. And now you have this limitation where people can only read a certain number of tweets based on whether or not they pay or don't pay. I don't know if he's going to turn this around or what, if he's going to walk this back or change his mind about it. I don't know. He's done that with other issues before, but this was really not the way to go.
Sarah, stay with us. I want to bring Shelby and Errol back in. You're so jealous that you didn't write the Slow Your Scroll, Ryan, aren't
Slow
you?
Your Scroll.
That's podcast-worthy type copy right there. Errol, I think why I love listening to Sarah talk about this is because I'm fascinated by the business story, less on the myopic, like, navel-gazing people being angry about their tweets not being available and all that type of stuff. But from a business perspective, they bring in Linda Yaccarino, a big-time executive that's supposed to juice up their advertising. Elon Musk is Elon Musk. How does this end?
Well, it's not going to be pretty. At this point, the estimate is that under Elon Musk, the company has lost 2/3 of its value. He paid $44 billion for it. It's worth something like $15 billion
And
now.
that's not good, right?
Right, not good. The number's supposed to go in the other direction. The fact that advertisers and important users like the National Weather Service and others are saying, like, this may not be for us. The algorithm it still sort of promotes and favors, kind of anger and division and outrage, making it a much less pleasant user experience for everybody who's left on it. And then this idea that you're going to get out of it by paying $8, which has just been roundly rejected. They've got very, very few subscribers, even among their daily users. So they're.
Yeah, this was another problem too, is that some accounts who did pay for Twitter Blue said they're still being suppressed. They're still not getting that increased engagement that they thought they would get by paying for it. So this is all over the place. It's a mess. I know people who have already canceled their Twitter Blue subscription because of that reason. Case Study QB, for example, is heavily suppressed on Twitter. And that may be surprising to some of you because we play his clips a lot, but he's another one. If you look on his Twitter page, you'll see how many views his tweets actually get. There was a disclaimer, or used to be, I got to check and see if it's still there. There used to be a disclaimer if you retweeted something from Case Study QB, it would say, like, do you want to read this post? Or it was just really weird because Case just posts news clips and that's it. But there's still a lot of suppression going on. And it's like, if people are going to pay $8 an hour, then you need to make sure that they're not suppressed. But the point is, why are people having to pay, period? Why are they having to pay at all? This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
There, as a business, it just seems to be falling apart. Now, it's got a lot of sort of potential. It's got a lot of residual affection. It's got a lot of users.
It's a key political tool, right? We have 2024 coming up. I mean, do campaigns think they're going to still be using Twitter?
Yeah, I think the big thing is, if it was just this change, it would be a huge change. But given how much Elon Musk has already changed the platform, like, I know personally, I feel like the platform is a little bit less reliable now in terms of me finding verified news that has been fact-checked and is legitimate. And so I think in that sense, it's a little bit less of a priority for campaigns. I mean, Donald Trump is still not on the platform, for example. I do think pre-Elon Musk, he would have more of a reason to join it.
Hey, Sarah, with the time we have left, I mean,
Isn't it interesting how they tried to make this about Donald Trump? How they had to bring him in there, had nothing to do with what Elon is doing in reference to this platform and limiting people being able to read a certain amount of tweets. Now, this was the first post that I saw from Elon Musk. He said to address extreme levels of data scraping and system manipulation, we've applied the following temporary limits. Verified accounts are limited to reading 6,000 posts a day. So you see, he started off with a lower amount. People lost their shit, and I think that's why he increased it. Unverified accounts to 600 posts a day. New unverified accounts to 300 a day. Again, what other social media platform is doing this, is limiting how much you can read? So that tweet went out. It got over 563.7 million views. He went on to say, in yet another exercise in irony, this post achieved a record view count. You know, it's the optics. Like, probably not a good time to try to make a joke out of this. Read the room. I don't know. Like, it's look at this. Stop making Twitter pay to win. I don't know who Los is, but Los said, bro, what the F is this? And then you see Twitter on the graveyard there. Peter Schiff says, how does Twitter know when I've viewed a tweet? You don't have to click on a tweet to view it. You just scroll down. I scroll past many tweets without reading them. Does that count as a view? And this is one of the questions that people had. People are just like, wait a minute now. What if I'm actually not even clicking on these tweets? I'm just scrolling past it. That still counts as a view. Yes, that counts as a view. So after the outrage in reference to that post, he decided to revise it a little bit. He goes on to say, rate limits increasing soon to 8,000 for verified, 800 for unverified, and 400 for new unverified. Then he changed it again. Now to 10K, 1K, and 0.5K. Look, I'm not here to tell you that you should be spending more time on Twitter. Not here to tell you that. In fact, I would tell you to get outside. But that's besides the point. The point here is that limitations have been placed on those, and particularly those who can't afford to pay for Twitter Blue. And that's the big problem. Now, if they have this strong concern about AI, and we've talked about this a couple of weeks ago as well, if AI has gotten to the point where it's that scary, instead of doing all these tweaks to other platforms, maybe you need to tweak AI. Or has it gone beyond that point at this moment? That's something we need to think about. Someone posted this. This was funny. Drew Pavlov, he posted this. It says, get ready, everybody. He's about to do something stupid. And so obviously this is from The Simpsons, and Elon's head is on Homer's body, and there's the Twitter logo there. Oh my God. Yeah. People just really weren't feeling it, bruh. Really weren't feeling it. And I think this was just a bad idea. It's like, every now and then he'll do something and people are like, yeah, this is great. Like, people can upload 2-hour videos to Twitter now, he said, if you pay. So like, people can, Tucker Carlson was able to come on Twitter and still do a show on Twitter. He said he wants other people to do shows on Twitter and yada, yada. There was debates on Twitter, all that jazz. But then he'll turn around and just do something stupid like this, and people are mad at him again. He didn't do a poll for this one, by the way. He's done polls for other ones in the past, but not for this decision. So just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. I'm gonna go to some of the comments here. Thank you for the super chat, Ron. Well, I don't like Elon for ruining Twitter, in my honest opinion, that I wanted to join Blue Sky, but I had to stay on Twitter a bit longer for RFK Jr. because I need him to end the empire before leaving Twitter for Blue Sky. I have not checked out Blue Sky yet, but I can give it a look-see. Soul said, what happened to Panquake? I do not know. I had Panquake, representative come onto this show about a year ago, actually. It's been about a year. And they told you what it was going to be about. They played through the site and everyone got to see that. And then I never heard anything else. Like, I don't know what happened. Oh, wait. Optimism of the Will said, I guess to Wary, I heard they had to sell Panquake. I don't know if that was to assist in completing or giving up. I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I don't really know what's going on in reference to Panquake, but there needs to be something else for people. We all shouldn't just rely on Twitter, as we see, right? But that's what's happening in the Twitter world. Okay. We're going to move on to our next story here. More good news Again, at least I think it is because it's about the workers. I do not know if you've heard this, but UPS, which is a huge, huge business in this country, UPS workers are also considering going on strike by the end of this month. Check this out. This is going to be huge, you guys. You know how many businesses rely on UPS?
UPS drivers could go on strike in August after its union says a new contract did not meet its demands. Meanwhile, you might have to pay a little more for some food through the 4th of July holiday weekend. ABC News business reporter Alexis Christophers has more on that and your other business headlines. Alexis, what are you watching today?
Diane, things are really heating up.
Whoops, sorry. She cut that short. I got to go to the
its union says a new UPS drivers could go on strike in August after its union says a new contract did not meet its demands. Meanwhile, you might have to pay a little.
Okay, and then she gets into the food thing. Sorry, I think I got the shorter version instead of the longer one. But here's the article, and let's get into this. UPS strike update. Teamsters and UPS closer to a deal, but the strike is not off the table. So this was released July 3rd, which was yesterday. There are some people saying that the strike is not going to happen. But according to UPS in Rome, my comrade from RBN has spoken to the UPS workers, that strike is not off the table. They could still go on strike. Listen to this. UPS Teamsters just practicing for a just contract. So here's a picture here. UPS and its worker union are closer to reaching a deal that could improve conditions for more than 340,000 employees nationally. Over the weekend, the Teamsters Union announced it has reached a tentative agreement with the company on 3 major economic issues, a final piece in what the union has called the largest collective bargaining agreement in North America. But union leaders warned a strike isn't yet off the table as both parties make a final push to reach a full agreement on a new 4-year contract by July 5th. Now, that's tomorrow. So I'll be watching for the news, the update about this tomorrow. I have a feeling they're probably not going to reach a full agreement tomorrow. The labor contract between UPS and Teamsters will expire at midnight, July 31st, if an agreement is not reached between the two sides. In June, the Teamsters passed a strike action vote with 97% approval, which would allow the Teamsters to strike if they deem it necessary. Here's what to know. What happened with UPS Teamsters over the weekend? So this was actually a conference that they had, contract campaign update press conference, with the current contract expiring on July 31st. And here we go here. Let me see if I can just pull it. We won't be able to play the whole thing, but I do want to get into some of this. Waiting for him to come to the mic. Sorry.
Business. We represent 340,000 members. Majority of them part-timers that go to work every single day, move boxes, load those trucks, so truck drivers and feeder drivers can provide goods and services to this country. We want to let the general public know that we are at a crossroads right now with UPS. We're at a crossroads because through the toughest times that we've seen during the pandemic, the one thing that was constant was our Teamsters going to work every single day, making certain that supply chain kept flowing through this country. We had part-timers going to work in these warehouses with total disregard for themselves and their families, putting themselves at risk, putting their families at risk. We had members that died because they went to work to provide these services to the general public. And we want to make certain that UPS rewards not only the part-timers, but also the full-timers and everybody that works as a Teamster at United Parcel Service. As a result of the pandemic, their profits doubled. They weighed $100 billion last year. $100 billion. And now it's time for UPS to reward the people that have made them the success they are. That is our 340 rank and file members. Now,
so again, this is another example where, again, the people at the very top of these companies were making bank. They made a profit. Remember, one of the things that we've mentioned before on the show is that during the pandemic, CEOs, their wealth doubled during the pandemic, while the workers actually had to struggle and suffer. So here we are, again, another different company. They're not the hotel employees that we talked about earlier, but still a similar situation to where they are being exploited. One of the things I want to mention to you in reference to UPS, this is something I didn't realize for a long time. Did you guys know that those trucks are not air conditioning? You know the number of times I used to see, especially when I lived down south, UPS workers driving on those trucks in 100-degree heat, 103-degree heat, and there's no AC? None of that. Those are just the truck drivers. Those aren't the people that are working in the warehouse. Remember, there's people in different positions. Not everyone drives the truck. Let's go on.
We are in contract negotiations. Our contract is set to expire on July 31st, and our administration has made it clear we will not be working beyond the expiration date without the contract that our members have demanded, but more importantly, the contract that our members deserve. Now, I want to give an update. Historically, the Teamsters Union would go into negotiations 1 year prior to the expiration date, and that's happened over the last 4 cycles. That didn't work well for our members. So we decided a different strategy. We put a deadline on these negotiations. We started negotiations supplementally, where there's 44 supplements on top of the national agreement. And we told UPS that we would not go to the national table unless all 44 supplements were completed. We were able to complete 42 of those supplements. We held up negotiations nationally for another week and a half, and then we got permission from the other 2 supplements who were confident they were going to get it done, and they got it done, to go to the table and demand what our members want. We've been in bargaining since May nationally. We've made progress on 54 changes within this contract. And I want to remind the general public, I want to remind the politicians, and I want to remind the media, this is the largest collective bargaining agreement in any private sector union.
Notice how he also mentioned the politicians and the media. Let's go on a little bit more.
We have the opportunity, because of the courage and conviction of our rank and file members that go to work every single day, to set the tone and set the standard high for labor, not just the Teamsters, but the entire labor movement. So we've been in negotiations, and we've gotten some changes. We've gotten some changes that are better our members' lives, but more importantly, take care of their families. But we're not there yet. And we're not there yet because UPS, typically like UPS, thinks that the Teamsters Union are going to concede to their demands. I'm proud to say every change that has been made right now has 0 concessions and all gains for our members. And we're going to continue that right through till July 5th. This past week, UPS wasn't moving quick enough. They weren't moving quick enough, so we put a demand. We demanded a last best final offer. And that last best final offer usually is taken to our membership for a vote. UPS came back to the table knowing we were serious, made some movement, so we made a commitment to resume negotiations. And we are at a point right now where we have the opportunity to do 2 things. And UPS, ball is in their court. We have to come to an agreement by July 5th in order to get that thing ratified by the expiration date. And we've been clear again, and I know UPS is watching, they're probably hiding in the trees. But we are clear, without a ratified contract, meaning subject to the approval of our 340,000 members, we will not be working. So
everybody heard that? So even though they came to the bargaining table with some sort of an agreement, he's here to let you know if they don't get their full needs met, come July 31st, they will still go ahead and strike. And that will be huge because so many companies use UPS. It's not just people like you and me, but a lot of businesses count on UPS. And they count on like them the same way they count on FedEx. UPS doesn't just deliver, packages of like just gifts or goods or things like that. UPS used to come to my former employer and they used to deliver like scientific materials that professors needed for the labs. They would deliver those types of goods. They would deliver like things that you could not get through the US Postal Service. So UPS is important and you do need them. And hopefully the powers that be will understand that and will give them what they're asking for. Otherwise, this is going to affect so many different industries: restaurant industry, hotel industry, the retail industry, universities are going to be affected by this. Like, this is huge.
UPS has two choices to make. They can either go down one road where they want to reward our members who have made them the success they are today, concede to our demands and give us what we deserve, and we will go out there and ratify this agreement. Or they can take the other road, where they don't concede to our demands. They stay loyal to Wall Street and forget about Main Street. And if they do that, they are making a choice to strike themselves, where we will put 340,000 strong Teamsters on the streets till we get what we want. And then UPS will be responsible for stopping supply chain solution through this company.
This can seriously disrupt the supply chain. Now, another story I didn't get a chance to get into today, but maybe I'll be able to talk about it a little bit on Thursday. Apparently, some of the Canadian port workers are also going on strike. So this is huge. When we talk about supply chain, I mentioned the railroad workers, right? I mentioned the port workers. I mentioned the truckers, but then there's also UPS. If UPS goes on strike, I am curious to see if the Biden administration will step in again the same way that they did with the railroad workers. Curious to see if that will happen.
But UPS has a choice. The first road, they can be the model of what it means to be a good employer, what it means to reward the people that have made them a success. UPS is putting out some propaganda that the average UPS driver makes $93,000 per year and $50,000 in benefits. And that is true. That is only true because they have to bargain with us. But they don't tell you the other story where the majority of their employees are part-timers, single mothers, single parents, working 4 in the morning till 8 in the morning in awful conditions for awful wages. We have part-timers throughout this country that are on food stamps, that are on subsidized housing. Some are homeless. This day and age, when we have companies as profitable, they need to reward their people, and we are not going to stop till we get the contract that we deserve for our 340,000 members. And
go ahead, and if you have not done so, go ahead and hit that like button, guys, because he is telling it like it is. He is telling it out like it is. Hit that like button. That helps me out with the algo. But he is definitely like giving fire here, because this is something that needs to be said, because I think people have a lot of misunderstanding about UPS. Again, not everyone that works at UPS drives on that truck. Not everyone is full time. There are some people that work there that are making like $90,000 a year. But I like the fact that he mentioned that there are part-time workers working at UPS, some who are single parents, and they're not getting those types of benefits or pay. And that's important for people to understand. So I thank him so much for saying that part.
We're going to use this contract to help change the lives of people that are in this industry, non-union, just like Amazon workers right now. Go to work unprotected, no benefits, no wage increases, no path to a full-time career. We're going to take this contract and say, this is what you're going to get when you join the Teamsters Union. So I'm very proud of the work we've done, but we're not done yet. And UPS has less than 84 hours to get this deal done, or less than 84 hours to feel the wrath of the biggest, most powerful organization, and that is the International Brotherhood of Teamsters.
He said, feel the wrath. I love it. I love it.
Up for questions. Fear. They know that we're not playing around. They know that we have tremendous unity and support throughout this country. Look, the general public loves their UPS drivers, loves their UPS employees. So the last thing they want is a blemish on their reputation. But most importantly, what we want to leverage our power, we want to leverage their profits, and we want our people rewarded. So UPS decided, instead of giving us the last and final, to come to the table, move on their proposal. And they made some movement, but it's not enough. It is not enough. We will determine when it's enough.
Boom. Just like that, he said, we will determine when it's enough. Now, Roger, I'm going to have to read your super chat because StreamYard is not showing me new comments. So I just have to look on the other one on here on Twitter. Okay, Roger Meadows said, revoke corporate charter, reissue co-op charter, Rockfin message. Okay, I'll go over there as well. Thank you so much for that super chat, Roger. Yeah, for some reason, StreamYard isn't showing me new messages, so I have another window open so I can see the messages on YouTube. But yeah, so now that's happening, but get this, and I want people to see this because Rome made this announcement, and I think this will be awesome. Rome is my comrade from RBN. He said July 31st, Revolutionary Blackout Network will be on the ground with the UPS workers as they walk off their trucks and go on the biggest strike the U.S. has seen so far. So this is going to be huge. I know Rome, we talked to him about this the other day. He said that he really is going to, wants to be there when that happens. He's already talked to workers at UPS. So it is what it is. But yes, he is going to do what he can to make sure that one of us is there on the ground to get that coverage. Because again, if this happens, this strike is going to be huge. I'm telling you guys, this is so much. This means so much. So shout out there to Rome. And we'll keep following the story with the UPS workers. Again, I consider this to be a good thing because I love when workers stand up to power. I really do. They stand up and fight back. Okay, let me go ahead and I'll go to comments on Rockfin and then we'll get into the Joe Rogan Ice Cube story, which should be, it's going to be interesting. So let me go ahead and pull up Rockfin. All right. I'll just make sure that it's not on silent and I'll share that as well. I don't have Eric with me today. He took today off, which honestly, I don't blame him. I do not blame him. Okay, let's go to the chat here and we'll just go to tips really quick. All right, Roger, thank you for the tip. Sabby, this is precisely why I never was one of the Long Island Railroad commuters who woke up at 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. in the morning to get on that iron horse to work in Manhattan. The lockdowns caused LIRR commuters to do remote work. Boomers took early retirements with a massive evacuation from the workplace. As a result, Mayor Adams, Governor Hochul real estate brokers put in heat to them to get the people back into the office. Because as long as those offices are empty, they are losing property value. NYC is about to undergo a massive crisis as the land the buildings stand on are more valuable than the building that stands on itself. The debt being piled up will come due soon, where it'll lose its tax base to maintain things like parks and sanitation of what little was maintained as is. However, I see this as an opportunity. To charter a public bank, if set up the right way, can solve. It can absorb all that debt held on commercial property and forgive it, but also provide a tax base by creating public sector jobs and infrastructure, which is its number one directive of what a public bank does. Low interest when those loans are paid back with taxes will be used to build the surplus without having to raise existing taxes or create new ones. Remote work, which depends on broadband infrastructure, which will need more bandwidth and internet lines for municipalized, stationalized broadband infrastructure, will be heavily needed, especially in underserved communities. Move out the way. Underserved communities in New York City, despite having crappy internet connection already. Upstate in rural areas, there is no broadband infrastructure at all. That surplus from a public bank can be used for maintaining parks and recreation, as well as building well-maintained, high-quality, low-income housing. Remote work and people leaving New York, especially New York City, is providing an opportunity to make this happen. With that said, I am very curious to see what happens in California now that regional public banks being implemented while the same is going over there with housing. Well said, Roger. Well said. Okay. I want to get into this story with Joe Rogan and Ice Cube. So Ice Cube did announce about a week or so ago that he was going to do a podcast tour. So apparently he's already started that and he's gone on to Joe Rogan's show. He's been very vocal, obviously, about the media, people being gatekeepers, and him being told that he pretty much has to align himself within the Democratic Party or he's hurting some type of movement, so to speak. So he has called out gatekeepers and he said that he's different. This particular clip with Ice Cube and Joe Rogan, this was interesting to me. I was not aware that this happened. But Ice Cube is going to talk to Joe Rogan about something that happened when he was a part of NWA and the connection to the FBI. Listen to this.
The Joe Rogan experience.
The day we got the FBI letter.
What was the FBI letter?
We got an FBI letter. They sent the letter to Priority Records saying one guy was like, I'm, part of this department of the FBI, and we're very concerned with this record called Straight Outta Compton. You guys got a song on there called Fuck the Police, and we think this song could encourage, people to go against law enforcement and blah, blah, this and blah, blah, that. And basically, we'd like it if you guys took it off the shelf, you know what I'm saying, to that tip. So, they call.
Pause there for just a second. We'll go back just a little bit because I only cut him off like right mid-sentence. Pause there for just a second. So the FBI at one point in time contacted the record label that Ice Cube and the rest of the members of NWA were a part of because they had issue with some of the songs, one in particular, F the Police. So they were acting in a way as a sort of censorship. Now, we talk about the FBI's involvement with censorship in reference to the Twitter files. But remember, NWA, this group came out like back in the 80s. And they're not the first ones. They're not alone. We know that they had issues with MLK. We know they were involved with that. We talk about JFK. We talk about MLK. We talk about Malcolm X. All these things where the FBI was responsible for not just killing revolutionary leaders, but also silencing them. And even someone like Aretha Franklin, believe it or not, even Aretha Franklin was targeted by the FBI. And she wasn't saying a song called F the Police. So this is just another example of the FBI putting their noses into places that really go against the First Amendment. Let's go on. There's more.
And blah, blah, that. And basically, we'd like it if you guys took it off the shelf, you know what I'm saying, to that tip. So, they call us up there, they panicking. We don't know why they want us to come. They just like, man, you got to come here. We got to talk to you. We get up there and it's like, pull out this letter, FBI. And we're like, He's like, man, do you know what this is? His fucking agent, he sent me this letter, and they was all like nervous and shit, and we're looking like, a letter? That's all you get? They're not gonna come in here and try to fuck with us? Like, they're not gonna, arrest us, cuff us, rough us up, none of that?
A strongly worded letter.
And we're like, y'all scared over a fucking letter? Come back to South Central with us. You know what I mean? Deal with the sheriffs down there. You know what I mean? They do way more than give you a letter. So we felt that it was like, Easy was like, we're gonna be big as fuck after this. You know what I'm saying? But the guys at the record company, this was the first time they ever dealt with like pushback. First time the government probably even knew they existed. So they were freaked out, and we were like, okay, we was looking for them to raid our houses and shit. Like, damn, because we done seen the battle ram, we done seen them run up in people's houses on dope charges, whatever, especially in the late 80s, early 90s. That's like they got a kick out of just running up in people's houses and shit. So we were like looking for that to come in the next few weeks. We was looking like, oh, they about to hit us. And it never happened. So we was like, what's the issue? What's the problem? Why
so it was just that letter?
It was a scare tactic, I believe. This was an effort for the FBI to try to scare them. Oh, let's send them this letter and maybe they'll stop making that music. Stop making that gangster rap. That's how some people were like back then, like, stop saying these songs, damn it. Don't you sing that song. Meanwhile, it's okay for other musicians to, I can say it on here. Let's just say there have been other musicians who have done things on stage at their concerts there was no censorship of that. It just depends on what you're saying and who the message is directed towards. Because the message was directed towards law enforcement, they had a problem with it. That's really what this was about.
And that was it?
It was just that letter. And then we made the letter public, and they kind of just backed off and shit. And then it became this big story of, the FBI hates this group. I think we was on the cover, like one of those, New York magazines, and it was like, the FBI hates this group.
Yeah, look at this.
Yeah.
And that actually just makes them more popular. Especially with younger people. Younger people be like, really? Let's see what they're all about.
Yeah, the FBI hates this band.
Wow.
Yeah.
Easy was right.
Yeah, he was. That's the letter.
Wow. Look at that. A song recorded by the rep group.
I'll show you the letter because I'll show it to you close up. So we'll just fast forward here. Here we go.
Body Count did a song called Cop Killer. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was a time when we grew up real fast. We had to understand that, this is bigger than hip hop. And we gotta stand up for what we know is true and right. It's like, we're not making shit up, it's go down, I've seen guys tell cops, it's like, take off that gun, take off that badge, and we can knuckle it up in the streets and do it like men. And so, we knew that sentiment was out there where people was really like, yo, if you're gonna act like a thug, let's thug it out. Or you're gonna act like an officer, then we'll respect your authority. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was a lot of cops that we respected that came through, and they would treat us like, real humans, not like, suspects. You know what I mean? You don't want nobody come through just treating you like a suspect. You ain't out here doing nothing. These dudes, so we knew some dudes that would come through and talk to us, tell us, y'all need to watch out, be careful, you know what I'm saying? And, do anybody know something that happened around the corner and all these little stuff? And we like, nah. But they was respectful, and we respected their authority. Then there was others that would come through, look at you crazy, harass you. We was kids on the bikes. We saw one day they came, we like 8, 9 years old, man. We on our bikes, got our bikes laid down. We made a ramp. We all kicking on the grass, resting, looking at our bikes like they're fucking motorcycles and shit. And man, sheriffs get the corner, came all up on the grass, and like get against the car, all that, bullshit. And we kids, they know we kids sitting on the bikes, man. What you think we did? You know what I'm saying? Like rolled on somebody's grass. You know what I mean, what you think we out here doing?
But even as a child, they still see you as a threat. And that's the thing, like that's a big part of the problem is that right from the get-go, they see you as a threat. Now, one of the things that Ice Cube mentioned is that there were police officers that would come through and they were actually, respectful, and they would try to, tell them, stay away from this part, stay away from that part, that kind of thing. But one of the things that stood out to me is he said they came through. And this is just another reminder of people that part of the problem that we have with policing in this country is that there are police officers policing neighborhoods and communities that they don't live in, they don't reside in, they don't know the people, they don't know the culture. They don't realize that so-and-so standing on the corner, he might be a little drunk, but he's not a threat to anybody. And so I think that's a big part of policing where they went wrong. If you live in Boston, you may be familiar with Boston school teachers. Well, to teach in Boston, at least it was this way when I moved here in the beginning. I think it's still this way. They had a rule where you have to live there, right? You can't say, I'm going to teach in Boston public schools, but I'm going to live in Newton. Like, it's not supposed to work that way. You're supposed to be among the community that you're teaching with good reason, right? So now apply that to police officers. You have police officers going into neighborhoods that they don't live in. You have police officers that live in neighborhoods that may be pretty well off financially, and they're sending them into police inner city Black neighborhoods where they're scared the moment they walk in. They don't know the people, they don't know the community, and they automatically see you as a threat. So that is a big part of the problem. That was just something that stood out to me when he said they would come in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
what was it like when the album came out, like interacting with cops?
Most of them was cool, actually.
Most
of them said they listened to the song. In the movie, we get ran out of Detroit. Like, they ran us off stage because we sung the song. A lot of undercover police, throwing M80s and shit on the stage.
Really?
Yeah. So we thought they were shooting at us. So we run off. They catch us. They round us up. And, they like, thought you was going to come to Detroit, right? Talking that fuck the police shit. And can't come through Detroit talking that. And we should run y'all to jail, We should lock y'all up. And blah, blah, blah. And we like listening. And he said, but if y'all got a couple of pictures, y'all got a couple 8x10s, y'all signing for my daughter, we ain't gonna have no problems. So, we was pissed, but we was like, man, Easy was like, get them t-shirts, get them everything they need. Come on. And so, we signed the shit, reluctantly,
But the concert's over.
Yeah, they turned the concert out.
Yeah.
I mean, they ran us off stage after 3 songs.
And they got pictures.
And then they got pictures and they got autographs for their daughters and they let us go.
So there were some police officers that actually did like that song, that did listen to it, is what he's saying. It's really interesting. If you watch the movie Straight Outta Compton, which I think was a phenomenal movie, by the way, Ice Cube's son plays Ice Cube and he does look like Ice Cube. Okay. But there's a scene in that movie where they're at a concert and they're performing and they're told from the get-go, don't you play that song, the F the Police song. So what do? They play a song anyway. I don't blame them again. Like, that's censorship. Roger, I'm gonna have to read your comment. I can't see new comments in StreamYard. Thank you for the super chat. FBI didn't care. Just popo to them, please do something. Just popo to them, please do something. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen Straight Outta Compton, you should watch that movie. I thought it was really good. And I'm picky about biopics. I am picky. And I'll say this, don't make any more Whitney Houston movies if you can't do it right, okay? Just don't. Just stop it. Just stop.
They just say you can't come to Detroit with that bullshit.
Wow. So it was only Detroit? That was the only place that fucked
Cincinnati, they ran us off.
Really?
Man, they would have us. Before every concert, a sergeant or a captain or somebody would come in with a city ordinance of what was obscene in their city, in their town, and what could be said on stage and what couldn't be said. And if you say any of this or do any of this, we will arrest you after your performance.
Wow.
Straight up censorship. Now, I have that letter, so I want to show it to you guys. I'll show you the LA Times first, because I didn't know this either. In 1989, the LA Times actually wrote an article about the FBI sending that letter to NWA. So it says here, Compton rappers versus the letter of the law. FBI claims song by NWA advocated violence on the police. Now, this was October 5th, 1989, and it was written by Steve Hochman. It says, First Amendment activist and a member of Congress said this week that the FBI may have stepped out of line with a letter accusing a Compton rap group of encouraging violence against disrespect for the law enforcement officers. Now, this is coming from Representative Don Edwards. The FBI should stay out of the business of censorship. I agree, Don. I agree. Edwards, whose subcommittee is charged with monitoring FBI actions regarding U.S. citizens, stopped short of saying a full investigation of the matter would be launched, but pledged, we're going to try to find out more about this letter. In a one-page letter which surfaced last week after New York-based rock journalist Dave Marsh spoke of it during an anti-censorship rally in Washington. Alaric wrote, advocating violence and assault is wrong, and we in the law enforcement community take exception to that action. So let me highlight something here. Advocating violence and assault is wrong, and we're in the law enforcement community take exception to such action. What about all the other songs? What about all the other songs that advocated for such action? What about that? Rock songs that may have advocated for such action? Twisted Sister? What about that? This is something I want you to think about. That's why I said it wasn't so much about what they were saying, it was who they were saying it was about. They were talking about the police, and that was the problem with them that they saw. The FBI representative then recounted that 78 law enforcement officers were feloniously slain in the line of duty during 1988, and recordings such as the one from NWA are both discouraging and degrading to those brave, dedicated officers. That's BS. You could say this about multiple forms of music, and it doesn't even have to be a particular genre. Like, there's different songs. I can pull up right now my Spotify playlist, and maybe we could find a couple of songs here and there. Like, oh, guess they shouldn't play this song either, right? Though he did not mention any song by the name in the letter, Ulrich told the Times he was referring to blank the police. NWA's brutal account of tension associated with police gang sweeps that have become common in the LA area. The song, set in a mock courtroom where members of the group act as judge and prosecutors, is peppered with lewd and vulgar language, punctuating a string of grievances about police misconduct in Compton. They were more focused on the language that was used in the song than they were about the police misconduct in Compton. And this is the part that people really need to take in, right? They're more upset about the language that they used than they were about police officers beating the crap out of Black people. That's what they were more upset about. The song was written by group member Ice Cube and is on NWA's 1 million selling debut album, Straight Outta Compton. It includes lyrics such as, "So police think they have the authority to kill a minority, and Ice Cube will swarm on any in a blue uniform." And it says, and when I finish, there's going to be, I can't say that on YouTube, but you guys can read that. Auric said he had not heard the whole song, but had read lyrics which had been sent to him by concerned law enforcement officials. And this is where you have to pause. He said he had not heard the whole song. Problem number 2. He took buzzwords, just a little clip, a little snippet of lyrics that was sent to him and said, "Oh no, we can't have this." Didn't even hear the whole song. The letter concluded, "I want you to be aware of the FBI's position relative to the song and its message. I believe my views reflect the opinion of the entire law enforcement community." Well, apparently that wasn't true, because Ice Cube told you there were even cops who liked the song. So let's see that letter, shall we? I'm going to put it up here on the screen so you can see this as well. I'm going to make this bigger for you peeps. Let's see. Boop. Okay, so you can see here it says U.S. Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation. This was August 1st, 1989. This is sent to Dear Mr. Manganiello at Priority Records, that's Hollywood, California. Hope you guys can see this okay. I know it's a little blurred. Maybe I can make it a little bit bigger. Nope. Go back. Okay. A song recorded by the rap group NWA on their album entitled Straight Outta Compton encourages violence against and disrespect for the law enforcement officer and has been brought to my attention. Censorship police. I understand your company recorded and distributed this album, and I'm writing to share my thoughts and concerns with you. Advocating violence and assault is wrong, and we in the law enforcement community take exception to such action. Violent crime, a major problem in our country, reached an unprecedented high in 1988. So now it's the song's fault. 78 law enforcement officers were feloniously slain in the line of duty during 1988, 4 more than in 1987. Law enforcement officers dedicate their lives to the protection of our citizens. No, they don't. They protect citizens that are rich, citizens that have money. They don't protect poor people. They don't protect Black poor people. They protect capital. They protect property. Law enforcement officers dedicate their lives to protection of our citizens, and recordings such as the one from NWA are both discouraging and degrading to these brave, dedicated officers. If they were so brave, they wouldn't shoot first and ask questions afterwards. They were so brave. Notice how, again, there's more focus on the language, the things that were said about law enforcement than there is about what law enforcement has done to people in communities like Compton. And it ends here. Music plays a significant role in society, and I wanted you to be aware of the FBI's position relative to this song and its message. I believe my views reflect the opinion of the entire law enforcement community. And it's signed there, Milt Alarich, Assistant Director, Office of Public Affairs. First of all, who is Milt? You know what I mean? Like, who is he to basically say this is how everybody feels in the law enforcement community without giving their okay on him. He doesn't know. But this is the letter, folks. And there's the date, August 1st, 1989. Federal Bureau of Investigation, and it was sent to Priority Records to Mr. Manganiello. So there you have it. So the whole censorship thing with the FBI, this has been going on for a long time. I'm going to go ahead and read these. I have to read these super chats. Again, I can't put them up on the screen because I don't know what's going on with StreamYard, but it's not giving me new comments for some reason. I see them on YouTube, just not on StreamYard. And I lost one. Okay. Thank you for the super chat, Roger. Cops cried to the FBI, please do something. Our feelings are hurt. And thank you for the super chat, DC. The entire Constitution and Bill of Rights are works of fiction. You can't have a First Amendment and the FCC. One cancels the other out. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, interesting conversation there. I never knew about that. And if you haven't heard about it, well, you know now. And you can share that with more people. All right. We're going to go into our final story here. I'm going to finish those ballot initiatives for Oregon, but go ahead and hit the like button if you haven't had a chance to do so. And we'll be heading on out of here soon. I know you guys have fireworks to go to. It's raining here, so I don't have them. So I'm sorry. We're going to go ahead and finish up Oregon here. Now I read number 1. So we're going to go to 2. Oregon Measure 112 removes slavery as punishment for crime from the Constitution Amendment. A yes vote supported repealing language from the state constitution that allows the use of slavery and involuntary servitude as criminal punishment and adding language that authorizes an Oregon court or probation or parole agency to order alternatives to incarceration for a convicted individual as part of their sentencing. This measure was ratified by 55.59%. So this was a legislatively referred constitutional amendment. So let's go on here. Who approved this? So it was actually bipartisan support, mainly Democrats, but there were a couple of Republicans that supported this as well. So that's interesting. 3 Republicans supported it. Unions, Oregon Education Association, Oregon Nurses Association, some of the organizations, Planned Parenthood Advocates of Oregon, Urban League of Portland. One of the arguments that was made, voting yes on Measure 112 will still allow important rehabilitation and accountability programs to continue. Prison work programs are a part of rehabilitation efforts for those serving time. Our current system includes mandated and voluntary work programs. Passing Measure 112 will clean up our state constitution while allowing these programs to continue. Additionally, important programs offered as part of sentencing, probation, or parole, including education, counseling, treatment, and community service, will still continue if Measure 112 is passed. Interesting. Who was opposed to this? Oregon State Sheriff's Association. Of course. Of course they would oppose it. One of the arguments, Oregon sheriffs do not condone or support slavery and or involuntary servitude in any form. With this being said, Oregon sheriffs cannot support Measure 112 as drafted. It creates unintended consequences for Oregon jails that will result in the elimination of all reformative programs and increased costs to local jail operations. Oregon sheriffs do not condone or support slavery and or involuntary servitude. Oh, this is on here twice for some reason. That's weird. Okay, so that was one of the arguments against it. Campaign money that was spent. There was over $1 million that was spent to support it. There was no money spent to oppose it. So again, as we've seen before, usually when there's a lot of money spent, the measure is usually going to go with the money. So we're going to go to the next one. Oregon 113 exclusion from re-election for legislative absentee initiative. So a yes vote supported disqualifying legislators from re-election following the end of their term if they are absent from 10 legislative floor sessions without permission or excuse. This was ratified by 68.32%. So in other words, for the politicians that don't like to show up, they want you to leave, basically. Interesting, Oregon. Okay, so it goes on to say, I was looking to see if anyone supported. No one supported. Okay, sorry about that. There's no names mentioned to see who supported it or who opposed it. But I do want to add this part here. The campaign contribution, like the money that was spent, there was over $2 million that was spent to support it, and there was no dollar spent to oppose it. This was really interesting. And so there is a comment here from Roger. Depending on which side of the spectrum you are on, this could be a good thing or a bad thing. Remember in 2011 when Democrat senators from Wisconsin walked out so Republican senators could not have a corner to pass Governor Scott Walker's union busting law, where they fled the state to neighboring Michigan. They were hiding out in the champion Ed Schultz is covering them. Teacher union families were begging for Obama to put on his comfortable pair of walking shoes and come to show support. As we know, it never happened, and Scott Walker got his union busting bill passed. Now, a decade later, they are seeing and experiencing its unpopularity and are beginning to try to repeal. However, in a twist since that legislation passed, Wisconsin, according to Forbes, went from being at the bottom of the list at 49 in public school education to number 9. So maybe there was something to it. We're moving on to this measure. Oregon 114 changes to firearm ownership and purchase requirements initiative. Whoa. A yes vote supported this balloted initiative to require permits issued by local law enforcement to buy a firearm, require photo ID, fingerprint, safety training, criminal background check, and fee payment to apply for a permit, and prohibit manufacturing, importing, purchasing, selling, possessing, using, or transferring ammunition magazines capable of holding more than 10 rounds to and make violations a Class A misdemeanor. This measure passed narrowly. It passed by 50.65%. So that was very, very close. So this is a change here in reference to firearm ownership in Oregon. But again, very close, very close. Who supported it? Mainly Democrats. U.S. Senator Jeff Merkley, State Senator Case Jama, State Representative Tana Sanchez. Interesting. Former U.S. Rep Gabrielle Giffords also supported it. The Oregon Progressive Party, AFT Oregon, Oregon Medical Association, and Oregon Nurses Association, and Everytown for Gun Safety, the League of Women Voters of Oregon, and Oregon Alliance for Gun Safety. One of the arguments for it, the League of Women Voters of Oregon believe that the proliferation of handguns and semi-automatic assault weapon poses a major health and safety threat to Oregonians. Is that what they're called? Oregonians? Gun violence, the leading case of premature death in the U.S., should be confronted with a sense of urgency and a range of evidence-based solutions. Here is why the League strongly supports Measure 114. Research shows that a permit to purchase requirement is one of the most effective ways to reduce firearm homicide and suicide rates. So this is huge. I don't know if any of you watching live in Oregon, but if you do, I'm curious how you feel about this. Because like I said, this measure barely passed. but it passed. Thank you for the super chat, Roger. That should be at National Hip Hop Museum in DC. Thank you so much for that. Okay, thank you. Again, I can't put super chats on the screen because StreamYard did not refresh the comments. It's really weird. I don't have new comments on StreamYard since 5:52. I don't know what happened to StreamYard. Anyway, we'll go ahead and finish up here. Who opposed it? Of course, the Sheriff Association, Oregon State Shooting Association, Portland Socialist Rifle Association, National Rifle, the NRA, of course, Oregon Firearms PAC, and Oregon Hunters Association. And one of the arguments was one of the major impacts it will have is the overall cost. The measure only accounts for $65 charge for the process, but the major issue the sheriff's office will be impacted by is having to hire at least one additional employee to handle this new process. You might ask, why is hiring another person a big deal? Under the current budget, there is no money to do this. And if it passes, the sheriff's office will be considering a reduction in patrol staff to meet the mandate. The money's there. I'm sorry. There's plenty of money to go around. Money's just being used in different ways, in some places where it should not be. Heavily spent in some areas and not spent enough in others. Miss me with all the we don't have the money shit. Sorry. How much money was spent in reference to campaign finance? There was over $3 million spent to support it and over $187,000 spent to oppose it. Again, usually if you follow the money, that's usually where the measure will go. And that is the rest of Oregon, ladies and gentlemen. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I know it's the 4th. I'm going to get going. I'm going to finish off that Twilight Zone marathon. So spend some time with family, and hopefully you do as well. Fireworks will be starting soon, somewhere around 7, 8, 9-ish. Maybe I think here's like usually around 9. But I hope you guys do have a good 4th, the rest of the 4th evening. And I hope you learned something hanging out here with me today. So thanks so much. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Like, I really was like, yeah, most people are not going to be watching anything, but I did promise I would go live today. So here I am. But yeah, pretty good turnout for 4th of July. Anywho, thank you so much, guys. You know how we do this. Oh, Friday, Jill Stein will be here. Almost forgot to tell you guys. So Friday will be a little bit different. I'll be going live earlier Friday to accommodate Dr. Jill Stein. So she'll be back on. And yeah, so I'm off tomorrow. I'll be back on Thursday. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.